The home is the most unsafe place. And it's where human beings are going to encounter the most amount of injuries. And for whatever reason, people don't want to accept that. And they have to, because if you don't accept that, there's no point in moving forward and doing anything, because it's going to get you. One of these days, it's going to get you. And you're going to go, oh, I should have done that. I should have put safety first. That would have changed everything.
Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz. I'm your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Lynell Gordon, and I have one of my favorite people ever on the show today. And I know that you love him. I love him. He's well loved in the industry because he's someone that actually saves lives. And I'm talking about Justin Ford. He is a nationally and internationally recognized safety expert specializing in short-term rentals. He has over 2 decades of experience, probably a little more, in property safety, fire prevention, risk management. He is the director of safety and certification programs at Breezeway, but he leads the industry's most comprehensive short-term rental safety initiative. He helps hosts, he helps managers, he helps agencies to elevate their standards, to reduce their liability, and to protect lives. And I mean that in a very serious way, literally protect lives. So he created this short-term rental safety inspection certification that you can get. It's a program that's trusted by thousands of operators globally, and it's also trusted by insurance companies, guys. He's trained over 10,000 professionals. He's reached millions more through his digital education, public speaking, his partnerships, guys, with insurance providers, with Verbo. And there is no one in the short-term rental industry that has visited more vacation rental properties than he has. He has trained and partnered with so many, directly working in their offices. He's personally toured them. He's inspected thousands of short-term rental properties around the globe. And in 2025, he was honored with the Pioneer Award from the Shorty Awards in London. And that is the highest individual recognition in our short-term rental industry for advancing safety, innovation, and education across our sector. He's been featured on ABC's Good Morning America. He's been on NBC Today Show. He regularly presents at all of our conferences, guys, all the big ones. He writes articles. He's appeared on a gazillion podcasts and webinars. I'm going to say 500-600. He talks about egress planning. He talks about lithium battery risks, bunk bed safety, fire prevention. He talks about all kinds of things that I don't even know about, and I always learn from him. And I could go on and on and on. He lives in the U.S. He has a family with a sweet wife and children, and he is passionate about helping us and educating us. Welcome, Justin. That's probably the longest I've ever done. I'm sorry.
Wow, yeah, that's I really appreciate that. That is quite an introduction. Wow.
It's true, though.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm a fortunate person that I get to do what I do. I wake up happy every day knowing that I have the lifestyle and the ability to do what I get to do. So thank you.
Well, what I want to talk to you is, I don't want to talk to you about your awards. I don't want to talk to you about all that. I want to talk to you about the most common mistakes that property managers make in safety for their guests.
Yeah. I mean, it's that they don't put it first. And it's something I've been talking about a lot recently. I recently read a book. It's been out for about, 14, 15 years now, The Checklist Manifesto. And if you've never read that book and you're operating a short-term rental, please read that.
Where can they get it?
It's on Amazon. Very easy to get. I usually see it in airports. It's one of those like business self-help books that you get when you're hopping on a flight on a plane and you think, wow, is this going to be interesting? And actually, it really is when you get into it. So it's something I've been talking a lot about, that we've got to understand. You just take the home. The home is the most unsafe place. And it's where human beings are going to encounter the most amount of injuries. And for whatever reason, people don't want to accept that. And they have to, because if you don't accept that, there's no point in moving forward and doing anything because it's going to get you. One of these days, it's going to get you, and you're going to go, oh, I should have done that. I should have put safety first. That would have changed everything.
One of the things that I've seen recently that I really want your feedback on, because personally I have it in my vacation rental house too, is the battery charging for, or I don't even know what it's called, but for the electrical Teslas and things like that. Tell me what we need to know about that, because mine was wired upside down. Is that common that people are not putting them in correctly because they're a new technology?
Yeah, that's a big issue. One of the things I hear all the time is, electric cars, they're more dangerous. They catch on fire more often. They don't. And actually, statistically, a diesel or a gasoline powered vehicle is much more likely to catch on fire than an electrical vehicle. It's the charging process. It's the process of charging the vehicle where we see the most issues. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have those set up properly. They don't work with a licensed electrician who understands exactly what needs to be done, looks at your electrical panel, understands what the electrical distribution is going to be, what the wire length is, all these different type of things. They have to be looked at in detail. You can't just hop on Amazon, buy a charger and plug it in at your house and go, I'm ready to go. I'm now offering a charging station for EVs. You've got to understand that this is complicated and it's important to set it up right.
And I'm just going to say this, my electrician put it in wrong. It wasn't me. And so I think, how do we get those inspected? I mean, who would inspect those? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, you've got to use a reputable one. Obviously, I don't know how your electrician operates, but if they haven't put them in before or they don't put them in often, that's certainly going to lead to some risk. You want to find someone who specializes in doing that and understands it. I was working with someone recently, kind of similar type thing, hot tubs. Professional company installing them all the time. And this guy pointed out to me, these guys are installing 5-10 hot tubs a day and they aren't bonding any single one of them. And I looked at them like, holy smokes, they're not. And so it's challenging. You've really got to vet who you're working and what you're doing and do your research. Unfortunately, AI helps us with a lot of that now, doing your own research beforehand so you can talk that lingo with the electrician when they show up.
What are some of the other things that, as property managers, you see this all the time?
It's the assumption that your guests are going to use your property like you do. And we don't step back enough to understand that the general public is not going to use a property the way we do anytime you can ever imagine it. And I see a great example of this. I see this all the time. I've got a short-term rental myself, and every single time guests show up, they all park differently. And it's intended that you pull straight into the parking spot. And sometimes they'll look out and they're parked parallel to it. I'm like, what? Why would they think to do that? That makes no sense. And it's simple things like that that will help you identify and recognize you're dealing with people who don't understand what your intentions are, as normal as you may think it is. You may think that you put that handrail on the right, it's your height, it's going to be perfect. And then a guest shows up and slips and falls. And you're like, how the heck did they do that? So you've got to do a really good job of vetting your property with lots of different people. Get your friends over, get your family over, get your cousins over, and have them go through the house and understand how they see things, not just how you see things.
What's the most common slip and fall issue that happens in a house? How does that happen? The most common way?
The most common one is tripping on carpets. I'm seeing a rise recently, and I actually just this morning I get emails and calls from attorneys all the time that want me to do expert witness work. I don't do that, but it's a case where I've seen some more of these. Hosts are telling people take off their shoes when they come into their property. Well, now people are suing because they took off their shoes, but they slipped and fell as a result of taking off their shoes. So yeah, that's the direction we're going. So it's definitely things like that. The 1 steps, the 2 steps down into a living room or up into a kitchen, those are a huge issue, and people would never think that those are an issue. But again, people not familiar with the property, they're walking along and doing that. And then lighting is the other big one. Poor lighting not set up in the right way. There's a great product out there. I encourage hosts and operators to look at it. It's called Snap Power. They're very inexpensive. I don't have any connection to them, but I love them. They're cover plates that go on your outlets, and you can create a path for lighting that's going to come on and off based on darkness and things like that. And it's really inexpensive.
That's amazing. That's a great tip. The Vacation Rental Show has partnered with Lynell Gordon to bring the vacation rentals market custom protection products built for the needs of the vacation rental industry. Enjoy complete protection for both your travelers and your owners via the industry's leading travel, damage, and liability protection products. Learn more about the travel tech industry's most advanced travel and damage protection platform and API at rentalguardian.com. What other types of things would you encourage property managers to do?
Property managers and hosts, they need to do an annual inspection. You have to say, I know I just did this last February. February's coming up again, but I've got to go through and do it again. Complacency is devastating. That's my mantra. That's my motto. That's how I live my life. Complacency is devastating. If you don't understand that you've got to go through every single year and do this, and every 5 years, maybe sooner, depending on your market, you need to have a licensed home inspector, building inspector that's going to come through, and they're going to go into more detailed things, not just your roof and your gutters and where drainage is going on and looking at your electrical panel, but your deck. Over 50% of decks in the US are prone to failure. And in fact, that number's going up because lumber has gotten so expensive with all these tariffs and everything. People are doing patchwork on decks. I'm seeing a lot of deck collapse, a lot of incidents. So you've got to make sure you're doing these inspections religiously, annually, no ifs, ands, or buts, document.
That's very good advice. And the other thing to think about, guys, for your homeowners, if you suggest this to them, it takes at least 3 to 6 months in the area where I am to get a deck inspector, a qualified licensed contractor who does deck inspections to come out and inspect my deck. I scheduled my deck inspection last year for this year.
It can happen quickly. We saw a deck collapse at a vacation rental in Malibu, California, where it had been inspected 3 years prior. And then 27 people were on that deck. That was exceeding what the limit should have been. But if it had been built properly and had been in the condition it had been 3 years prior, it probably would not have collapsed. So it happens that quick, especially in a market like you are, where you're near the ocean, salt air, and constant changes in temperature, heat, humidity. All that stuff dramatically affects the performance of the wood and how long your deck is going to last and when things need to be updated on it.
I have another question, and this is just something you may not know, but there is a beam that connects like your house to the deck. What's that called? I can't remember what it's called. Mine failed.
I know, and I know what it is, and this is my age. I'm 53 years old now.
No, I'm so bad. I'm the same way. I can't remember what that's called. It's 3 letters and then a beam. And my insurance company did not pay to have that replaced. What happened was water got into it, and we spent 2 years trying to get insurance to pay for it. It was expensive.
The ledger board.
It's what that sits on, and there's a beam underneath that holds it. Yes.
The rim joist.
Yes, that's it. And that's what I'm having my inspector when he comes out. I'm like, I want you to look at all of that. And I especially want you to look at this because it failed.
Yeah. And what scares me is, especially, I see it a lot in your market, Southeast US, down Florida, across 30A. A lot of these decks are multi-story decks now, and they put in a ceiling on the deck so you don't see the beams above, but then you're not seeing it. So you don't know what's going on underneath that. And so a good inspector is going to have to pull some of those boards and do that. I'm not a big fan of that. I get aesthetically it's pleasing, and that's the route that construction has gone these days, but it's not good for inspections.
I'm not a fan of it because it's outside. And number one, not only do you have to keep that up, but you also have to have lighting that's going to show from there. Normally, they're going to put lighting there, and all that has to be. And on the ocean front, that's just, you're asking for problems. I'm sorry.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Let me ask you this. Let's talk about bunk beds. The reason I say that is because during inspection, we weren't required to do anything to our bunk beds based on how they were built. They're built-in bunk beds. And we didn't do the stairs that go up. We did the stairs that go up the side and everything. But when we went to have it insured, they insisted that we have something made that goes across the front of this, which makes it harder for the kids to get into, but it also makes it harder to fall out of. Is that something that you think is important?
Yeah, this is where things are so complicated. There are products that are in our homes that are regulated and licensed one way, and then there's building codes. Building codes don't address residential furnishings. So you've got the building codes that address that. So if you have an inspector coming in, they're only working off what minimal things they can do, which is typically Life Safety 101, which is mostly fire, and bunk beds aren't in there. Yet there is a federal law mandating how bunk beds are constructed. And so the insurance companies fall to that direction. And that's why I've done what I've done, is to package this all together. This is everything you've got to do. But yes, when it comes to bunk beds, it's kind of crazy. There will be about 30 to 40 people who will unfortunately pass away in 2026 from a fire in a short-term rental. That's horrific. We certainly don't want to see that happen. More than that are going to die, unfortunately, from pool drownings. That's the number one killer of short-term rentals. But over 30,000 kids are going to be injured in bunk beds. And some of those are going to be fatal. And there's not enough that's driving that, yet we know it's a really big issue. When you're a child and you're developing, you don't sleep the same way as an adult. You're moving around, you're wiggling, you're growing quickly, and your spatial feelings are not the same as an adult. So that's why kids are so much more likely to fall out of a bunk bed or fall out of bed than an adult. And now you're putting them in a bed they're not familiar with. That increases that. So that's why the insurance companies who have been paying ridiculous amounts of claims on this are much more strict about it. And unfortunately, unless the ambulance crew in a town is talking to the safety inspector and the city council and going, hey, by the way, we're getting lots of ambulance calls for kids falling out of bunk beds, which they're not saying that because they don't track that. That's why they're not inspecting in that direction. So it's the insurance companies that are fortunately pushing that harder. And there are lots of requirements you got to follow for that.
You know, the thing that scares me about this with bunk beds, we put in these beautiful guys. You can get beautiful bunk beds on Estee or other places. The bunk bed, what are they? The rails. Okay. They make beautiful rails, the guardrails out of like pipe, and it's beautiful, stunning. But here's my thing. When I was a kid, they were wood. I had bunk beds, but how many times did I get my head stuck in that? And
Yeah.
it's so scary to me that they're requiring me to put this in a certain way, in a certain length. And I'm so afraid one of the kids there is going to get their head stuck in there. It's like you can't win for losing. Don't have a bunk bed, obviously, right?
Yeah, and then so many people are still putting bunk beds in rooms that have ceiling fans. I was just in a short-term rental in Vermont. I could not get out of the bunk bed without getting hit by the ceiling fan, and I'm thinking, oh, this is awful. There's an amazing company in Montana called Icon Bunk Beds, and they've not only met federal standards. I didn't even know this till I went and toured their facility, but there's actually international standards for bunk beds, international safety standards, and they've hit both of those levels. And it's all these different things. Even if you've got a contractor that you're buddy with and you're like, hey, can you come in and build some custom bunk beds? They have to follow federal standards in the US, and in other markets, you should be following international standards. The ladder's permanently affixed, the guardrail's 5 inches above the mattress all the way around. No one under the age of 6 on the top bunk, that safety sticker in place, all that stuff has to be there. That's not what you want to mess with. And the insurance companies know this, because if you go to court, it's federal law. This is a big one and a hard one for them to defend in court.
All right. So everybody needs to take a look at the federal laws they have on bunk beds for their homeowners, to give the homeowners that information. That's to protect us and to protect our homeowners. There's another thing that's really interesting that I found, and that is you can find because I did. We have a ceiling fan in the bunk bedroom, but our ceiling fan is enclosed. You can't get into it. And it's a great ceiling fan. It's really pretty. It's actually red, white, and blue. It's really beautiful. And they make those for kids' bedrooms simply for that reason, so that the kid can't stick something in it or they can't put their hand in it and they won't get hit. Let's talk about something else that's similar to bunk beds. Talk to me about lofts. We have a lot of lofts in hosting homes. What do we need to think about for safety for our lofts?
Now, if it was up to me, I'd ban them. And I know that's me being super aggressive. Generally speaking, I like to think that the reason I've lived up to everything you introduced me for at the beginning is because I try to be reasonable when it comes to safety. But lofts are just so dangerous. If you turn the heat up in your house to 85 degrees and then go up in your loft, and you'll see that it's over 90 degrees up there. When there's a fire, that's where all the heat and smoke are going first, and they're very difficult to get out of. And then add to that, they're the most difficult place to escape from in a property. You're dealing with being up extremely high in most situations. And on top of that, most of them don't have good egress windows. It's rare that I see one that's to code, so they can't get out. And then on top of that, it's where the kids want to be. So let's put the kids in the most dangerous possible place. I don't like them for that reason. The only way you're going to set up a loft that I like is either with a fire sprinkler system, or you've got a really good smoke alarm system. You've got a built-in fire escape ladder up there. You're going to get the earliest possible notification, which all can be done very affordably. We're not talking like block the room out. You can do this, but most hosts aren't doing it. And we've seen a lot of tragedies from that.
Well, that's all we have time for today, guys. But trust me, you don't want to miss next week when Justin comes back and he'll finish talking about fire prevention and additional emergency equipment that you guys need. Look forward to seeing you then at part 2. This episode of the Vacation Rental Show is brought to you by Rental Guardian. To find out more about how Rental Guardian can help grow your vacation rental business, visit rentalguardian.com. Make sure to search for the Vacation Rental Show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team at Inhabit, thanks for listening.